Suarez. Cohen. Here. Maniscalco.
Here.
Capini.
Present.
Miranda. Here. Euro. And Red.
Here. All right, 5 o'clock, public hearing. Do we need to move to open?
Move to open the public hearing.
I got a motion from Mr. Clun, second by Mr. Maniscalco. All in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right, thank you, Ms. Hay.
Good evening, council members. David Hay, Planning Commission staff. Let's start the night with, you have 4 plan amendments this evening. 2 are up for adoption consideration, and the other 2, the last 2, 1811 and 1814, are transmittal hearings. 1812 is the first amendment. It is generally located in the South Tampa Planning District, more specifically the West Tampa Urban Village, just west of downtown. Here you have the aerial of the subject site. You could see, here's the subject site outlined in red. This is Cass Boulevard, Willow. These are the railroad tracks heading into downtown. Downtown's off to the right. And this is the campus of the University of Tampa. It is a little background. It is privately initiated. It is small scale. It's approximately 1.76 acres. The current future land use is that general mixed use 24. That allows the residential, commercial, and industrial uses. The applicant is seeking to go to the urban mixed use 60 future land use category. Here's some pictures of the site. Here we're looking south from the intersection of West Carmen Street and North Gilchrist Avenue. The subject site is on the left right here of the photo. Here we're looking east down West Carmen Street from where it intersects with North Gilchrist Avenue. The subject site is right here on the right. This is looking toward UT. That's the parking garage with the University of Tampa on the other side of the railroad tracks. Here we're looking west down West Fig Street. The subject site is located right here on the right side of the photo. Here we're looking northeast up the CSX Railroad right-of-way. The subject site is located over here on the left side of the photo, and this is the parking garage with UT, and these are the railroad tracks. Here we're looking west from the intersection of West Carmen Street and North Gilchrist Avenue. Here we're looking north, up North Delaware Avenue from West Carmen Street. The subject site is behind the photographer there. Here we have the current adopted future land use map. You can see the subject site and all these, the light blue color are that general mixed use 24. Immediately to the northeast is that light, I guess, lavender color. That's the urban mixed use 60. That's located all along the west side of North Boulevard. To the east is the blue, the public quasi-public for the University of Tampa. And then in here, the light browns are residential 20, and the darker brown is that residential 35. And then the pinks further to the west around Oregon and Rome are that community mixed use 35 future land use category. Again, there's urban mixed use 60 to the north and to the south, and then this is that regional mixed use 100, this light, I guess it's red color. Here, it's kind of hard to tell, but here is the map if this plan amendment is approved. The site has gone to that urban mixed use 60 future land use category. The impacts, currently under that general mixed use 24, the site can be considered up to 42 dwelling units or 114,998 square feet of non-residential uses. Under the urban mixed use 60, the residential unit count goes up to 105, while the non-residential square footage goes up to 249,163 square feet. There's a few under the urban mixed use 60, any applicant or developer of the site could use the square footage or the density count for residential development, whichever is more beneficial for the applicant. It also removes, if the urban mixed use 60 is approved, it removes any consideration for industrial general uses on this site. There was agency comments from the school board. Currently, Gorey Elementary and Wilson Middle do not have adequate capacity. Through any future rezoning, there would be further, they would need to coordinate with the school board through any future rezoning. Your planning commission did recommend approval. They found it consistent in a number of policy areas, the promotion of infill development in appropriate areas of the city. There's also policy directions supporting investment in the central Tampa planning district. There's even policy directing residential, future residential development to locate on the west side of the river to support the employment center of downtown. That's captured there, support redevelopment in the West Tampa area, and also promote a form of development supportive of transit and walking. The Planning Commission found that the urban mixed use 60 and the development that does come with that category typically, it does usually typically support more transit usage through its density and form. So based on that, Planning Commission recommends that the proposed map amendment be found consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the Imagine 2040 Tampa Comprehensive Plan. That concludes my presentation. I believe the city doesn't have any comments, but we're here if you have any questions.
City got anything? Okay. The applicant, is the applicant here?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the City Council, and Mr. Shelby. My name is John Grandoff, and I represent ABC Capital Corporation, which is the applicant on this application this morning, or this evening.
Yeah, I didn't know about anything about this, so I'm definitely going to have to recuse myself from hearing this at all. Thanks. Because my father is the petitioner.
You may continue.
I was getting ready to say there was an issue. I'm not Harry's father. I represent Harry's father. Anyway, Mr. Hay has succinctly summarized the application for you. I'd like to read one finding that's in the application. There's no page number on it, but the second to the last page of their recommendation. The comprehensive plan supports the continued transition of West Tampa to a more mixed-use development pattern and recognizes the University of Tampa and the future expansion of Tampa General Hospital as important anchors and economic engines for this general area and to build upon and support these investments. In summary, you have two big economic engines here, and they need some housing. And this is a superb idea to have a walkable city, to have less transportation problems, put the development near the major economic engines. This is next to the former fairgrounds, next to the CSX rail line. The finding is consistent, and the conclusion is overall the request for the urban mixed use category at UMU 60 for the subject site is consistent with the overall policy direction of the comprehensive plan and would provide a development pattern that is compatible with the long-range development trends of the surrounding area. In the city's report, you have similar findings on page 4. Based on the historic development pattern of the area and the location of the subject site, the requested UMU 60 land use category is in the best interest of this area and the city as a whole. This future land use category allows for consideration of the maximum FAR at 3.25 with the bonus provisions. In considering an application for a plan category to change it from GMU 24 to UMU 60, you have to look at the future. And what's the future bringing? The future is bringing demand for improved housing, improved use of this property, no longer industrial. I submit to you this is an excellent application. It's consistent with the plan, and I request your approval this evening. Thank you.
Okay, any questions from council to the applicant? All right, anyone in the public wish to speak on item number 1? Anyone in the public wish to speak on item number 1? Second. Got a motion from Mr. Miranda, seconded by Mr. Maniscalco. All in favor of that motion say aye. Aye. No opposed? Mr. Suarez, would you care to read number 1?
Thank you, Chair. I present an ordinance for first reading consideration, an ordinance amending the Tampa Comprehensive Plan future land use map for the property generally located at 1102, 1112, 1116 West Carmen Street from General Mixed Use 24, GMU 24, to Urban Mixed Use 60, UMU 60, providing for repeal of all ordinances in conflict, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
Got a motion from Mr. Suarez, seconded by Mr. Vieira. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Let's vote. Okay.
Motion carried with Cohen being absent. Second reading and adoption will be on February 21st, 2019 at 9:30 a.m.
Mr. Clerk, if we can correct that to make it as Cohen abstaining, please. Thank you.
Correction with Cohen abstaining.
For a short period of time. Yeah. All right, thank you. Got it?
Thank you.
All right. Item number 2. Item number 2.
Good evening, council members. David Hay again with your Planning Commission staff. The next amendment for your review is TACPA 1815. It is located in the South Tampa Planning District down in the Gandy Sunbay South neighborhood. Here we have an aerial of the subject site. You can see Robertson High School is just to the north of the subject site. You've got Inner Bay, Rembrandt Avenue, all within the surrounding area. And then these are the railroad tracks going down to Port Tampa. This is a publicly initiated request. It is small scale. It's approximately 8.55 acres. Currently, the site has 2 future land use categories, the residential 20 and the transitional use 24. Us, in coordination with the school board, we're seeking to change it to the public, semi-public, to better reflect what the school board is planning for that site. Here's some photos. Currently, they're using it for their driver education facility. This is the site from the intersection of Lois and Rembrandt. We're looking southwest. Here's the site from the intersection of Manhattan Avenue and Rembrandt Drive. We're looking southeast across the subject site. Here we're looking north from the intersection of Lois Avenue and Rembrandt Drive. The subject site is out of frame to the left. Here we have the currently adopted future land use map. You can see the subject site is that residential 20. You've got residential 10 to the east and west of the subject site. There's the public, quasi-public for Robertson High School immediately to the north of the subject site, and then the transitional use 24 to the south. If this plan amendment is finally approved, it would go to that public, quasi-public to unify it with the Robertson High School campus. Currently, under that residential 20, the subject site can be considered for 173 dwelling units, or a total of 214,803 square feet. Under the public, quasi-public, there is no maximum floor area ratio. It's guided by that the development just needs to be compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. So if any development did occur through a rezoning process, that would be one of the determiners of what was appropriate for the site. The Planning Commission looked at the request and found it consistent with our school siting and availability policies to promote our the public schools, and also allowing for compatible development with the surrounding neighborhood. So Based on that, at the November 19th Planning Commission meeting, the Planning Commission recommended that this map amendment be found consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the comprehensive plan. That concludes my presentation, so if you have any questions, feel free.
Any questions from council? All right.
Thank you.
Does the city have a presentation? Okay,
No.
the applicant, is the applicant here?
I don't believe that the school board's here.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, anyone from the public wish to speak on item number 2?
My name is Lorraine Lundy. I live at 4114 West Vaughan Avenue. And in regard to, I attended the public hearing that was held November 19th. At that time, I had a concern in regard to sidewalks being added on Lois Avenue when the Collector Street, Rembrandt Drive is a through street that you will go to get to Manhattan Avenue. I sent a letter to Linda Walker, who is a planner too, at Heartline, which they had a letter in the Planning Commission when they were doing this amendment. They had a letter in there that said that they wanted to improve sidewalks on Lois Avenue. I'm trying to figure out why would they improve sidewalks on Lois Avenue when there are already sidewalks around the school. I also sent a letter to Amber Dickinson with the same concern, trying to find out what it is that they're going to do with Rembrandt Drive. To date, I have not received any response from either party in regard to what kind of development or what they're going to be doing on Rembrandt Drive. Thank you.
Ma'am,
Yes.
are you saying you are against sidewalks being installed? Is that
Not against sidewalks being installed. I'm just trying to find out because what they're actually going to be doing with Rembrandt Drive. They're not saying that they're putting sidewalks on Rembrandt Drive. They got in contact with Heartline to have ADA stipulations put on Lois Avenue, which is the front of the school. The bus does not run on Lois. They want throughways and things on Lois Avenue. I just want to know, what are they going to do with Rembrandt Drive when Rembrandt Drive is a way to get to the bus stop on Manhattan?
okay? Mr. Hay, you have any knowledge of anything about this?
Hi, David Hay, Planning Commission staff. I do not have any knowledge of this. My understanding, this plan amendment was initiated by us in coordination with the school board when we're reviewing appropriate land uses. We were looking at, since the school, it was an identified site owned by the school that was not in a public, quasi-public category. Our understanding from the school board is that there's no long-term plans for that. They're using it for their driver education facility. If the thought is that there may be a vacating of Rembrandt, that would need to come through the city. It's not part of this plan amendment process, and that would need to be handled and heard in front of city council. They can't just, close a road or anything like that. So hopefully does that.
That answers it. I just want to be on the record. I think they already tried to vacate Rembrandt and it was Drive and it was denied previously.
Okay.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, anyone else wish to speak on item number 2?
Second.
All right, got a motion from Mr. Maniscalco, seconded by Mr. Randall. All in favor of that motion say aye. Aye. Opposed? Mr. Cohen, item number 2.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I move an ordinance being presented for first reading consideration, an ordinance amending the Tampa Comprehensive Plan future land use map for the property generally located at 4228 Monet Court from residential 20R20 and transitional use 24, TU 24, to public, semi-public, PSP, providing for repeal of all ordinances in conflict, providing for severability, providing for an effective date.
All right, got a motion from Mr. Cohen, seconded by Mr. Maniscalco. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
Motion carried with Capeen being absent at vote. Second reading and adoption will be February 21st, 2019 at 9:30 a.m.
All right, we go to item number 3.
Jennifer Malone with your Planning Commission staff. I'm here to present on item number 3, which is a comprehensive plan future map amendment 1811. This is located in the University Planning District, more specifically within the neighborhood of Old Seminole Heights, according to your neighborhood map. There is some background on this amendment. It was privately initiated. It is a regular amendment because it's greater than 10 acres, which means that after it's heard here, it has to go to the state for their review before it's adopted. So it's about 16.85 acres. And the request before you is to go from light industrial to community commercial 35. You might remember that this had a previous request on it, 16-14, that came before you on February 27th, 2017. This board did vote to transmit that to the state. However, that amendment never had the adoption hearing, so it was never adopted. So it was transmitted to the state, but an adoption hearing has to be held within 180 days per state statute, and since that was never held, it was null. So this is back before you tonight under those circumstances. This is the subject site. This is along Rowlett Park Drive, and this is East Sly. I have a city water facility over here, some industrial uses, some single-family homes, and this is a TECO facility right here, and to the north is the Rogers Park Golf Course. Here are some site pictures. This is a subject site. It's a vacant, heavily wooded area, so I took my pictures from the road. This is Rowlett Park Drive facing south towards Sly. This is the Chem Laboratories, which is located to the north of the site, some of the industrial uses in the area. These are the CSX tracks located to the west of the subject site, kind of across Rowlett Park Drive. And these are just some examples of the businesses that you find along Rowlett Park Drive. This is a marble and granite business located to the north of the subject site. These are single-family homes located west of the subject site along North 30th Street. This is also located along North 30th Street, the Precision Electrical Repair Services. And then this is that City of Tampa water treatment facility located on 30th Street along the river in the vicinity of the subject site. This is the adopted future land use map. I have it outlined here. This is the subject site. It's light industrial as adopted today. These are those single family homes I showed you a picture of. They're kind of back here tucked away. They're residential 10. The public is that water treatment facility. There's a TECO facility down here, that's also light industrial, and then the red is community commercial 35. And this is the Rogers Park Golf Course and rec open space to the north. And then this is the proposed future land use map before you tonight, changing to community commercial 35, which is the red. So currently under the light industrial, there no residential density is allotted. So that's 0 dwelling units under the adopted future land use, but this has the potential up to 589 dwelling units under that community commercial 35. The floor area ratio would also go up about 1 million to about 1.5 million square feet potential on the subject site. Long story short, this would decrease the amount of industrial lands within the city and increase the floor area ratio, and it would allow the subject site to have residential development. We did receive objections from the City of Tampa on this amendment, and I'm sure LaShawn will further explain those after I conclude my presentation. However, the Planning Commission did find this consistent, and they cited some specific policies in that motion, and those are included in the resolution in your packet at length. But based on the presentation by the applicant, they found it consistent under this HSG policy 1.2.3, housing for supportive services and temporary shelters, as well as promoting a range of uses within close proximity to each other and utilizing those limited land resources more efficiently. They also found it consistent with LU policy 6.1.1 to promote the redevelopment of automobile-oriented corridors to create a more attractive pedestrian-friendly district, as well as LU policy 8.9.2 to continued intensification of the industrial warehousing and distribution facilities. Since under that community commercial 35, there's still some potential for those uses under the proposed plan amendment, and that was provided in their justification. So the Planning Commission did find this consistent, and as it is reflected in your resolution, that was a 7-2 vote. One Planning Commissioner was absent, and I'm available for any questions. And I think LaShawn is ready for her presentation from the city.
Thank you. Ms. Malone, let me ask you a quick question. You said something that I guess 2 years ago this was sent up to the state.
Yes.
Was it under the same requested future land use?
That request was to community mixed use 35.
Okay.
But it was that, there's a slight difference between those two categories. The floor area ratio is the same and the density is the same. Community mixed use 35 does not allow the commercial intensive zoning district. But community commercial 35 does allow commercial intensive zoning.
Okay, and so, and you're saying that we had adopted it here and sent off to the state, or was it?
You voted to transmit
To
that
transmit, yeah,
yes, to
okay.
the state. It went to the state, it came back from the state with a letter saying that you have to adopt this within 180 days, and that adoption hearing, the applicant
just never happened.
withdrew, right. Some things fell apart and there was never that adoption hearing. So if it's not heard within 180 days, it's null, per the state statute.
Were there any other differences between what was transmitted to the state and what we're seeing here tonight?
The difference was that proposed future land use category. The first time it was this community mixed use 35, and today it's community commercial. I believe that the applicant is slightly different. The representative might be the same before you, but I'll let him explain that further. But those would be the differences.
Okay, thank you, appreciate it. Thank you,
No
Chair.
problem. Any other questions?
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chairman, Council, LaShawn Dock, Planning and Urban Design. Council, City Planning staff reviewed the request and has objections to the request. You'll find the city's comments within your packet. The objections were mainly relating to the industrial zoning and land use which surrounds the property. On this map, this is the property that's identified on Rowlett Park Drive. This is Sly Avenue, just to orient you. So this is the property that's under request. And as you can see, all of the areas that are located within the map that are gray have the industrial general zoning. So this property is zoned industrial general. The parcels to the north, the south, and the west, and further northeast, all have the industrial general zoning. So staff has concerns regarding the requested CC 35 land use category and the allowable uses under that land use category. There's a concern regarding it possibly being an inconsistent use allowed with the CC 35 next to the industrial zoning. And you'll find those policies listed and those concerns listed within the city staff report. And I'm available if you have any questions, Council.
May I ask one question?
Sure.
You said the city objected to this request. Is there any zoning that the city would have approved?
Well, at this point, this is a future land use amendment request.
I understand.
So is there a future land use that the city would have approved of?
Right.
If it were something along the lines of another industrial, or I guess anything that would have allowed for the residential, the city would have had concerns with.
Thank you.
Because it's already a light industrial land use category.
Okay, Ms. Dock,
Yes,
we just heard about this having been sent up to the state previously
Yes.
as a CMU 35. Did you review that one also previously, or did someone
Correct.
in staff did?
we did.
Okay,
The city
and-
planning staff reviewed that one, and we also had objections to that request.
That
and
was my
report
question.
was similar to this one, yes.
All right, I just want to make sure it was, you had also objected to it then, too?
Yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
thank you.
Let me ask you, this site is currently being used for what?
Currently, this site is vacant.
It's vacant.
Yes, sir.
All right, what are some of the industrial facilities surrounding this site?
So the one that was in Jennifer's picture, the where they were doing the
Jennifer Malone with the Planning
Marble.
Commission. There's a,
what's
there's the Theochem Laboratories, which is a chemical manufacturing plant. We also have precision electrical repair services in the area. And then this is located just north of the subject site. Those are some, and as well as those heavier commercial uses, that marble and granite selling is kind of taking place down Rowlett Park Drive. It's a little bit.
What is the distance between this vacant site and this laboratory that you just showed? What is the
I'm
distance?
sorry, here's an aerial of the site.
Okay.
So this is the site that's located here. So those are the,
I believe, and you'll have to forgive me because I'm going off memory, that this is the location of one of the pictures I showed you that was on the precision electrical repair. I believe, based off this aerial, I believe that this is Theochem Laboratories right here. And then those, this is a lot of marble and granite. There might even be some car repair, kind of occurring along Rowlett Park Drive as well, kind of a mixture.
Should a park be located near that site, since it's industrial?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
There's a park there, right? Rowlett Park.
Yes.
The Rogers Park Golf Course?
Rowlett Park is
Rowlett
further
Park.
north,
Oh, okay,
yes, sir.
yes.
All right. So it's within the vicinity of this site, is this correct?
Yes, sir.
It
And
is
I
further
will,
north.
since I have it, this goes back to I showed this to the Planning Commission. It's also in your staff report. This is a green for recreational open space, which is the same land use it has today, because we did recognize that park back in 1979 when the Planning Commission did this preliminary subsector plan, and the subject site was light industrial. So this development pattern is we're still kind of seeing the same development pattern today.
Okay. Mr. Vieira.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to point out to everybody that we received in our inbox a list of surrounding properties with value, use, acreage, and address. I believe this is from Mr. Nicolini. Just for your own reference, you were asking about the surrounding properties. If anybody wants it.
Mr. Cohen.
Well, Ms. Dock,
Yes.
wasn't the objection, this was many years ago, I think, a few years ago that this came in front of us the first time. Was the city's major objection at that time that just that there was a concern about getting rid of industrial zone property in the city? Just having less of it was going to be a problem?
That was one of the concerns.
That was one of the
concerns, and then the use is allowed. The previous applicant did propose some residential, a residential component, and there's a concern whenever you bring a use of a residential next to an industrial use.
But it was, if I remember correctly, the concern was more that we weren't going to have enough property in the city zoned for industrial uses, or at least that was part of the concern.
Brew Park, right around the University of South Florida.
Yes.
Pocket and
And
Desmond,
this,
I think.
yeah. Okay, that's it, thanks.
Okay.
All right, any other questions from council? All right, the applicant here.
Mr. Chairman, council members, I have a PowerPoint for you. If we could pull that up, please. While it comes up, let me tell you, Mr. Chairman and council members, Todd Pressman, 334 East Lake Road, number 102 in Palm Harbor, Florida. In my 25-plus years appearing before you at the county and other jurisdictions, I've never had a greater honor or more respect for a group of people that I've worked with and what they do than this organization. They are doing phenomenal work in this community, and they've done it for over a century. You'll hear tonight from Dr. Jerry Haig. He's the president and CEO of One More Child and Florida Baptist Children's Home. You'll hear from Pastor Ken Witten, who's the pastor of Idlewild Baptist Church. And you'll hear from Keith Babb, director of Hope Street, One More Child. And if I may, I'd like to ask everyone here who is for this request tonight and came down here, if you would please stand up. Give him a wave. Mr. Chairman, I rest my case. Let me go over some points for you. If we go back to the PowerPoint, please. I'm going to cherry pick a little bit because I have the zoning and land use together. So this, again, is One More Child in Idlewild Baptist Church. We have tremendous community support. I know you've received hundreds of emails in support. We have the Planning Commission support. We have the zoning staff support for zoning. We have a long list of city departments and agencies that support it, and these folks have a great community mission. Now, whether it's providing goods, primarily food for families in the community, this organization has a number of different missions. They have a specific mission that they followed in their century work, which is proposed for this site. They do outstanding work, including serving over 1 million meals. They don't serve hot meals. They don't do homeless meals. They don't house homeless. They strictly pick up and deliver food, hard goods, canned goods, non-perishable goods. I'll get into that a little bit deeper. But they do and provide other community services. So oriented to the site and the issues, you're aware we have a future land use amendment tonight from industrial CC 35. It's located in somewhat mid-Tampa. Jennifer, who always does a good job, has outlined the site for you. It's 16.84 acres. They have already purchased and they own the property. That's their commitment to the site and to the city. There's residential areas abutting. You also heard to the north, there's a recreational area which has clients and folks who are using that recreational use as a golf course. So the mission at this site is approximately 85% warehousing and trucking of mostly non-perishable foods. They will have 5, 6, 7, maybe 8 individual single mother homes. They have a program where they bring single mothers in who are having difficulty. They work with them on a program to make them self-sufficient and have them move into the community. So it's a small, very small residential use. It's primarily a warehousing and trucking of use. So what they do is they send out trucks to a lot of supermarkets and stores, as you can see. They bring them back to One More Child, Hope Street, and then they distribute those goods. They are not serving meals. They're not serving homeless. They're not housing folks. Their primary mission is shown here. So they don't cook, serve, or prepare meals. It's not a soup kitchen. It's never been their mission. It's not their mission now. Homeless shelter, never been their mission. It's not their mission now. Again, meals have never been their mission. So to give you a little bit of idea, this is their Lakeland property. This is the Harold Clark Simmons Compassion Center. And to give you an idea of what it looks like, this is the food operation where they bring in warehoused foods, as you can see, and they store them, warehouse them, and then again truck them out. You can see some of their efforts here. Some of their efforts, one of the big efforts is backpacks for kids at elementary schools, and the guys will talk about that. But you can see they have trucks, and you can see that they have warehousing facilities stackable there, and a lot of major industrial type uses to handle that activity. And this is the small residential component that's in Lakeland. As you can see, it's very residential looking. Again, it's very regulated. It's very regulated in terms of a program to work with these folks. So points and support. Premise points. As you already know, City Council did vote once already to eliminate the light industrial future land use category. I represented that case. It was a entirely different group of people. Those are the folks who were first looking to do the shipping containers. Yeah. So it was going to be a very intense residential use. That's primarily, in fact, that was what the whole site was going to be. So the council approved it. It went up to the state, came back, but their business deal fell through. So it was left as is. So industrial type uses will remain. There will be economic support. And there is other CC 35 future land use category very close by. So previously it was TA CPA 16-14, light industrial CMU 35. As far as I recall, it was approved unanimously on first reading. And this is the letter from the Department of Economic Opportunity approving it. So this is the site, and you can see to the south, almost immediately to the south, there is plenty of CC 35, even before you cross the street. So it's not just the only CC 35 that's being requested. Community support. This is a letter from the state of Florida Department of Juvenile Justice from Judy Royston, who's their chief officer. She notes One More Child, Hope Street are vital to the community. We hope you strongly consider their land use change. They've made an incredible impact and support positive growth in the area and help families. We're very proud of a letter from Jeff Eakins, who, as you know, leads Hillsborough County Public Schools. He tells you that he hopes that you will consider the land use change to CPA 18-11. He notes that it's a strong desire for you to support it. They firmly believe it will strengthen the community. One More Child has provided nearly 600,000 meals to students and families in the state. Their strong belief that community partners like One More Child, Hope Street are vital to the well-being of the children in our schools. There's a lot of comp plan policies that support that. That's why the Planning Commission did approve and recommend to you to support this land use category. One policy is 1.2.8 to promote a range of uses in close proximity to each other. Uses shall include, but not limited to, including housing with a variety of housing options. 2.1.2, use limited resources more efficiently and pursue a development pattern that is more economically sound by encouraging infill development on vacant land that's underutilized, which is what this site is.
8.9.2, encourage the continued intensification and existence of industrial warehousing and distribution facilities and provide opportunities for new warehousing distribution in select locations to provide a range of employment opportunities to Tampa residents. That actually is a policy that one of the planning commissioners pulled up, and I may be wrong, but I think that's a policy the city staff is using in support of opposition to this case. There's a lot of other policies, including housing. You can read about work with nonprofit organizations, collaboration with housing agencies, and again, faith-based organizations, which these folks are. Work in coordination with private organizations, development permanent and transitional housing that's affordable. And last policy, again, 8.9.5. I bring that up again because one of the planning commissioners raised that as support for the request. Planning Commission report tells you that this would be consistent with the overall mix of uses in the surrounding area and development pattern. City's development review and compliance staff has reviewed the application and finds the request consistent with zoning. Make a point of that. They find it with zoning. All the departments in the zoning report also noted as consistent. So in summary, we have tremendous community support. This entire room is filled for folks who came down here tonight. You've heard from the community. This, if we go back to that last page, please. So this is an organization that's community supporting with a tremendous reputation of saying what their mission is and following through for literally the last century since 1904 in this community. They work in many areas of needed social assistance. They have complete staff, agency, and community support, not your Tampa staff, on the land use. City Council and the state approved a prior change away from industrial, future land use category previously. Many comp plan categories absolutely support the application as reported and recommended to you, and it will still maintain industrial use. With that, we all appreciate your attention and consideration, and there's some folks here who want to speak. We're happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any question for the applicant?
I have one. If it's all of them, we'll be here till the next week.
I understand. I think we're going to designate a few folks, and I think some other folks might want to speak. Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Chairman, go ahead.
No, let's go.
Thank you. I'm Jerry Haig, the CEO of One More Child, 1005 Sykes Boulevard, Lakeland, Florida. At One More Child, every day what we're pursuing is being able to help vulnerable children and struggling families. As Todd said, we began in 1904 with a single site. Today, we operate in over 50 different locations. This past year, we impacted over 248,000 individuals, and in addition to that, provided over 7.5 million meals. At our current site for Hope Street, we're doing GED programs, diversion programs. We're helping to feed families, and we're also providing foster care, licensing, recruiting, and placement of children throughout the entire Tampa Bay area. So we've made a tremendous impact on the community that we love. Those operations and all those services will continue at the existing site. On the new site that has been vacant for decades, that is contingent to both commercial and residential, it'll be an ideal site for what we intend to build there. We plan to build a compassion center. Within that compassion center, as you saw, we take shipments from large individuals, and we work with partners like Publix, Walmart.com, U.S. Food, Winn-Dixie. We're able to take large donations from them, break it down into smaller packages, and be able to get that out to children and families that are struggling and that are in need. When we look at that through feeding those hungry families, and then also you saw some statistics from Superintendent Eakins regarding our backpack feeding program, where we're able to help feed children that have been hungry over the weekends. So to give you an idea of that impact, one that'd be most similar to this is a Compassion Center in Lakeland, Florida, 16,000 square feet. This would be 20,000 square feet, so this would be larger. We average approximately 500,000 pounds of food that we're able to both bring in from those donors and then be able to redistribute out to children and families that have those needs. In addition to those feeding programs, you also heard about our Single Moms program, which is fantastic. We call our single moms brave moms because we think moms out there that are raising children by themselves are brave. They're going to school, they're providing peanut butter and jelly after school, they're doing homework, they're throwing the ball, they're playing with their children, they're raising these kids on their own, and sometimes they need extended family to come in around them. We're able to do that through a 12-month program. which we work also in conjunction with Department of Children and Families on the outcomes of those programs, and we're able to make a tremendous impact on their lives. Not only that, we've had fantastic success there, but within this commercial area, also within this residential community, we'll have beautiful green spaces. We can talk about all the statistics, but it's all about a little 8-year-old girl named Asia who were able to send a backpack home every weekend that's full of food like this, that will provide food not only for her, but also for her family for an entire weekend, every Friday to our schools districts.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chairman, and good evening, City Council. I'm Keith Babb, the Director of One More Child, Hope Street. One of the things that I want to make mention of, and I think there was a slight underrepresentation of the depiction of the community around the subject site. If you look north of the subject site, that's Sulphur Springs. If you look south of that site, that's East Tampa. One of the things that was also failed to mention is that that subject site is surrounded by 3 area schools. One being Sulphur Springs K-8 Community School, the other being Van Buren Middle School, which has now become a community school as well, serving kids from K to 8th grade, and also Slide Middle School. So those are community schools where our subject site is centered in. And I think our president also mentioned that our desire is to help children and families. If you know anything about those communities that I just mentioned, you know that they're underserved, they're under-resourced, and we simply want to bring resources to those children and families in that community. One of the letters of support that was presented in our presentation stated the Department of Juvenile Justice. We've been serving young people through the Department of Juvenile Justice since 2016 at our site here in Tampa, Florida. We've served over 150 young people, that being girls and young men that have found themselves in a little bit of trouble. One of the things that was also failed to mention, one of the setbacks and one of the reasons that there were some concerns from the city staff is that we would probably put young people or those in residential facilities in danger. One of the things that our president mentioned, we serve kids in foster care. One of our main goals is to mitigate danger from young people that are in the Department of Juvenile Justice, as well as the child welfare system. So we're going to ensure that we put plans in place to not put them in imminent danger. My plea to you is to allow us to continue to serve communities that are underserved and under-resourced. And as you can see by the representation behind us, the community wants us to do this as well. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and City Council, Stuart Connor, 1202 Oxbridge Drive, Lutz, Florida. I am the chairman of our Hope Street Board. And actually for 6 of the council members, we were here 4 years ago and talked to you about Hope Street and Hope Street using the George Bartholomew Center at 12th and Seward. And you folks voted in favor of that to give us an opportunity, and we're still there. And we continue to serve the community, and by approving these changes here, it'll give us the opportunity to continue to expand our services. So I am asking for your support tonight, as you supported us 4 years ago, and I appreciate your time.
Well, what we're going to do, because your time is up.
No, I understand. So I wanted to let.
We go to the public.
We want to move ahead on your
yeah, we go to
agenda
the public
process.
All right.
I've got a speaker waiver form. Mr. Michelini has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 names. Please acknowledge your presence here. If I mispronounce your name, I'm sorry. John Theophilus, Theo, thank you. Michael Maniscalco, thank you. Spiros Thealis, thank you. Brady Ledette, thank you. And Neil Chambers, thank you. 5 additional minutes, 8 total, please.
Council, Steve Michelini, I'm representing Theo Kim and John Theophilus and his family who own that facility. I also have a petition signed by 11 other industrial users that surround this site who are opposed to this plan amendment. Let me start by saying this is not about the good work that these folks do. This is about whether or not an industrial site should be converted to allow residential. And if you noticed, every comment that was made to you focused on the warehousing, the services to the community, the putting together of the backpacks. They can do that as it sits right now with the industrial zoning and the industrial land use without making a single change. There was no identification regarding the residential component, which is really what's behind all of this. Let me show you, again, this is the site. Let me go in here. This facility, which they alluded to, was immediately adjacent to it on the north. This is Theochem, a chemical manufacturing facility. There are 15 loading docks with trucks that come in and out of that facility that distribute those products all over the state. Over here is warehousing. There's storage in here. There's the electrical repair services here. They're using all kinds of electrical components to repair electronic equipment. There's warehousing all down here. There are 4 houses that abut the residential side of this property way down here out of a 16.85 acre site. And so you ask, why are they changing a request for the entire site to be allowed for CC 35? They told you 80 to 90%. I thought it was 90%, but of their effort are related to warehousing, not residential components. This has nothing to do with servicing the children, giving meals to kids. It has not one thing to do with that. It has to do, those are allowed right now. They can build anywhere in this property, that warehousing and that distribution center, anywhere. What they can't do is they cannot put residential properties anywhere else. One of the things that we threw out to them was, why don't you consider putting the change for your land use in the far southern extreme of this huge piece of property? They only, one of the discussions I had was they only had 40 units that they were proposing, and then somebody said 5, 6, 7, and 8 for single moms. I don't know if that means 5, 6, 7, and 8 houses. I don't know what that means. Green space. This is a hazard area. This is a TECO distribution and warehouse center. They have transformers. They have big trucks. This site is huge. Let me show you on another aerial just how big that site is. These are 2-lane roads, and I think that it's very interesting that one of the land use classification, one of the citations was enhancing an automotive corridor. Nobody would ever call Sly Avenue and Rowlett Park an automotive corridor that needed to be enhanced. You can barely traverse it now. When you talk about the objections, the city laid out and the Planning Commission staff laid out a number of objections. And it's not just about removing industrial property. It's the proximity of the industrial users who are established, who have been there for many, many years, and who don't want to accept the liability. They don't want to accept the risk. They don't want to put any child in harm's way. If you remember, just last week, there was a facility in Dade City that wasn't even dealing with chemicals. It caught on fire. It took them 3 days to put the fire out. Do you really want to put women and children at risk in that kind of environment? The land use objectives are, and I gave you a series of, I gave you a list of all that. Recognize industrial lands to support the key economic engines. We are having a declining amount of space for true industrial parks, true active industrial parks, which these are. Maintain industrial areas that provide manufacturing goods. They do it. I've given you a list of all the ones that are there, and I'm going to give you a list of every one of them objecting to this land use change. Continue to assist in the conversion of existing industrial warehousing and distribution for flex space, incubators, light industrial uses. They can do every bit of that warehousing just the way it sits. They're not being forthright when they tell you that the entire site has to be residential. They just aren't. I mean, it's either 40 units or, I mean, if they have 2 acres on the southern end, that's 70 units of residential property that's not immediately adjacent to these heavier industrial uses that are already existing. For one of those industrial users, just one of them, relocating their business is a $10 million impact. Just one of them. I didn't even go through all of them. One of the other uses here, it says that a land use objective is preserve light and heavy industrial uses which are appropriately located in terms of traffic accessibility. Do you want to mix residential traffic, more residential traffic with industrial traffic, with all of these heavy trucks that you know are coming in there? The site, and I'll reference again the city report, the site is surrounded with commercial and industrial uses to the north, northeast, south, and west. The potential introduction of uses in the requested CC 35 is inconsistent with the existing development pattern of the surrounding area, and if approved, the CC 35 will remove industrial land use, eliminating opportunities for manufacturing and other industrial uses. I gave you a list of, there's 14 items, and I also gave you a list of all of the industries that are there and the value of their properties. Tico, $8 million. Camjo, $1 million and some change. Michael Self-Storage, $218,000. Rice Leasing, and these are 32 acres for Tico, 2.9 acres for Camjo. Michael and Kenise Self-Storage is 1.5 acres. Rice Leasing is $319,000, 2.26 acres. Rowlett Park Leasing, $500,000, 5 acres. Lidra Holdings, 9.84 acres. Lidra Holdings, 6.2 acres. Manufacturing, this is all, and Precision Electronic, 15.34, $2,500,000 for MKW Properties, Southeast Tampa, 800,000, 3 point. They're all there. This is not an illusion, and skipping over an area to say, oh, it's immediately adjacent to green space or this is beyond comprehension. It simply is an incompatible use. We're strongly urging you to protect these businesses that are there, protect this industrial land use, and deny the request for a land use change. I'd like to submit into the record the opposition from the other land use, the other industrial users.
All right, any questions from council? All right, anyone in the public wish to speak on this item, please come forward.
Yes, sir.
Anyone in the public wish to speak on this item, need to line up against the wall and come forward. Yes, ma'am.
To the council, my name is Deborah K. Barnes. I am the president of Gamma Theta Omega Incorporated. We are a 501c3 organization. We serve Tampa. Tampa knows us. We've been serving the city of Tampa for over 75 years. We conduct our programs and hold our meetings on the corner of 7th and Central Avenue. We have partnered with many organizations like One Child. With Mr. Keith Babb, he allowed us to collaborate with them on a backpack giveaway for kids. We heard about their mission, we heard about this ministry, and because of who we are, and Tampa knows us, the city of Tampa even gave us a building on our property free because they knew what kind of service we do. We are very serious and passionate about serving our communities. Some of our members, and we're 251 strong, live in that community. And to have the opposition sound like they care about our children at risk, we have schools there. Our children go to schools, to some of those schools right there in that area. Do you care about those kids who are going to school every day? This organization is putting together a plan that will make Tampa even greater than it is now. So we are jumping on this bandwagon. We are in support 100% of this request for future land use. We believe in this mission. Ladies, stand up. All the members of Gamma Theta Omega. Our members are all college educated, all walks of life, from housewives, from teachers, we have judges, we have attorneys, we have chemists, pharmacists, we have doctors. We are serious about rolling up our sleeves. We invest in our city, we invest in our community, and we invest in people. This is a people project, and for Tampa to be one of the leading cities in the future, we better pay attention to the investment in people. And I thank you for your time.
Before we get to the next speaker, let me remind this audience that we do not applaud and celebrate in this chamber. So let this be the warning. All right?
Ms. Theophilus has one name. This is Stephanie Theophilus. Is Elizabeth Theophilus here? Thank you. One additional minute, 4 minutes, please.
Chairman, council members, my name is Stephanie Theophilus, and our family business is the chemical manufacturing plant that you heard about, Theochem Laboratories. Our business was started in 1962 right here in Ybor City. We moved to Rowlett Park about 30 years ago and have maintained a strong identity within the city of Tampa. In fact, my grandfather had the opportunity on many occasions to move, and he refused, maintaining that it was important to him to stay within the city. We firmly believe in this charity and their honorable intentions. We understand the importance of humanitarian efforts such as these, and as a family, we personally contribute substantially to different charities on a very regular basis. For us, though, it's not about the charity or the wonderful work they're doing. It's about rezoning an industrial park to allow for potentially over 589 residential units in the center of an industrial park, where all 4 directions of the neighbors are currently being used in industrial capacities. Placing women and children immediately adjacent to over a mile of exposed railroad tracks, a huge TECO facility, a chemical plant, a container yard, numerous warehouses, heavy mechanical and automotive repair centers, and heavy industrial traffic routes is inappropriate. You wouldn't allow a warehouse to be built in the center of a residential neighborhood, so why would you place homes in the center of an industrial park? The negative implications for the owners and employees of the industrial park will be aggressive and unfaltering. Quite simply, building this campus that allows for so much residential housing, whether or not they plan to do it immediately, makes no sense. It seems an improper choice for both the existing community and the prospective community. As the industrial zones in Tampa grow smaller and smaller, it's important to protect these employment lands for both economic growth and stability. I sincerely appreciate all of the wonderful people who have come here today to support this great charity, and I commend their work and their humanitarian efforts. But council members, this is the wrong location to allow for so many residences to be built. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Yes, sir. If I may, I would like to hear from the petitioner on rebuttal on these, number one, on the up to 589 units, and what, I don't know what the proper term, buffer is or could be done for the surrounding businesses. In my other job outside of city council, I'm also a tort defense lawyer, so risk management's always on my mind. You know how that is. But thank you. Just a note. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Next speaker.
Good evening, Council. Cammie Corbett for the record, 7406 Park Drive. I live about a mile from this site. This is my neighborhood. This is my community. I support the good work that the charities are doing and hope they continue, and was very excited to hear about the community and campus concept. when I heard about this application. But when I looked into it further and I saw the way they were approaching the land use approvals, I got very alarmed, and there were a lot of red flags for me. I've met with the applicant's representative and asked them if they would consider filing a campus PD to allow them to have a campus PD and be able to address the issues of compatibility with the industrial and the residential and limit the uses in the way that they have stated to you they intend to, but they've refused to do that, and they've declined to do that. I wasn't present at the meeting when they explained to the Old Seminole Heights Neighborhood Association they simply didn't have the funds to do that. I'm not sure that that's really the case. They purchased a property for $1.4 million, so they do have resources. So I do think there are some things that this applicant can do to work with the community, both the industrial and the residential people in the surrounding area, to make this a better application and actually produce the result that they're promising. As it stands right now, you have nothing to hold them to their word, and you will have nothing once you approve the land use and once you approve the zoning. Your hands will be tied. You won't be able to limit them. You won't be able to limit the property owner from selling the property to somebody else for completely incompatible use with the schools that are in the surrounding area. So the issue isn't with what they're saying they're going to do. The issue is the way they're going about it and the fact that they won't commit to the uses that they're promising to you on the record today. And therefore, I respectfully request that you either delay this to another time where we have more opportunity for community input about what's really going to happen on the site, or deny it.
All right, next speaker.
My name is Jillian Kilbride. I live at 1107 East Patterson Street. My home is 2 miles from this site. I first heard about Hope Street project last Tuesday night at the OSHA meeting, which made me very excited to hear about it. If you travel north on Rolette Drive and cross the river, the level of poverty jumps from 10% to 37.4%. Just a few miles up, it's 52.2% of the population is below the poverty level. So we do need a warehouse there. It is false to say that there are no residents adjoining this property. On the southeast side of the property, there is a residential community. I agree that maybe we should work with this group a little bit more to bring about that change in permit. But if we stop them, we have a whole community of people that are losing out. Poverty brings domestic violence. Domestic violence brings a need for emergency housing. We cannot just simply say, don't do this, don't change this from industrial to light housing. We need to make room for women who are in need of a place to escape. My best friend is a single mother with 2 children. She has adopted, well, she's a foster parent. She drives 40 miles to Lakeland to get the support she needs for dry goods. A community just 2 miles south of her house is going to make a huge difference to her. She won't need to use that gas to get out there and get the support she needs. It'll be right there for her. That is my personal take. I thank you for your time, and hopefully I look forward to working with Hope Street project in the future.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. My name is, and council members, city council member, my name is Ken Witten, senior pastor of Idlewild Baptist Church and founder of Hope Street Ministry, and also a board member of One More Child, also called Florida Baptist Children's Home. And if you'd like...
Excuse me.
You bet.
Mr. President, he's a part of your petitioner group.
The gentleman is making just the 3-minute comment, sir, if that's permissible. From the public.
Well, they're going to be part of your rebuttal time.
I'm sorry?
They're going to be part of your rebuttal time.
I mean, there's people speaking on both sides for and against at the moment.
No, he's a part of your petition.
Doesn't anyone from the public get 3 minutes?
You got a choice. You either allow him to speak for 3 minutes, and you're going to have 2 minutes in rebuttal.
Take 1 minute.
Okay. And Mr. Chairman, if you'd like me to remind these people this is not a church, I can do that.
No, we can take care of that.
Okay, thank you very much. When I came to Tampa 30 years ago, I fell in love with this city, and I still do today. And I want you to know that when we discovered this piece of property, we saw it empty, had been empty for over 40 years, and we knew that it had already been approved for even a greater population than what we were proposing. So I think we're not against the light industrial, and that's not our purpose here is to hurt anybody in Silver Springs. We love Silver Springs. But it is our desire, when we came to you 4 years ago, we asked you about the Bartholomew Center. You graciously awarded that. We put $100,000 into that building where we have now a GED program, and also what we call the Evening Reporting Center, where we've had over 130 of juveniles who have been arrested, have been on probation, and have not seen any of those been repeat offenders. Now we have a girls program for 30 that are going on at that Bartholomew Center. We put $100,000 ourselves into that building to improve it. We put $1 million in a church at 8209 North 19th Street in Silver Springs to show the commitment that the people there are worthy of that, and we're not going anywhere. We're not about profit. We're about people. We're not about land. We're about lives. We're about rescue. We're about relief. Our desire is to build a compassion center that has about 20,000 square feet, that in that compassion center is not just a food distribution and clothing distribution, but it's also a help to those who are aging out in orphan care. We just simply believe this: whoever owns the family owns the future. And so we would like to be a part of helping make a difference in Silver Springs and in that family. Thank you very much.
How much time does he have left on the clock? How much time left on the clock? 53 seconds. All right, so Mr. President, you have 2 minutes and 53 seconds. All right, next speaker.
Good evening, City Council. I've not been sworn yet. Don't need to be sworn. Okay, good evening. My name is Tim Keyports. I'm the president of the Old Seminole Heights Neighborhood Association. I would like to just speak to you a little bit about the matter before you. This is a tough one. Obviously, we have a lot of people in support, but we also have some concerns. The Old Seminole Heights Neighborhood Association did host the gentleman behind us, behind me, and One Street at a public community meeting, and we asked them for a depiction. We asked them for a site plan. We asked them for a visual, and what was shown to us was the Lakeland facility, which looks fantastic. And we would encourage a compassion center to be placed on this property. The problem is we don't know for sure that's what's going to actually happen. So as Ms. Corbett just explained to you, if you make the conversion of this land, there's nothing tying Hope Street or this group to actually install a 20,000-foot warehouse facility and up to 8 housing units. That's what they've said, and I do believe them. The problem is there's nothing that ties their hands to it. As Ms. Corbett said, if things fall out and they do not have any funding at this point, we did ask them at the public meeting, and they said they currently do not have any funding. They need to do fundraising. If things were to change and the property was then sold to another organization, again, your hands are now tied, the city's hands are tied, and we don't know what would be put on this property. Could be another facility that's even better. It could be a light industrial use, but again, we don't know. So I would ask City Council to continue this discussion to a future time so that we can have more discussion about this and to solidify, allow the applicant time to present a site plan. There are a couple other options that we can look at. That would be either a voluntary land deed restriction or a campus plan development. That would give you the opportunity to see an actual visual of the site plan, what they intend to build. We did ask that at the public hearing. They mentioned to us that that would cost roughly $20,000 to put together, and they would rather put that $20,000 into their ministry and their other needs. I understand that. $20,000 is a lot of money, but they've spent $1.4 million to buy the land, and again, we have no assurance that what they are offering is what we're actually going to end up. The last thing I would say is I was looking ahead at tonight's agenda, and I note item 9 is a continuation of this petitioner's request to council to rezone the property to CI. This was a surprise as we were not noticed of this change. I would request council continue that hearing to a later date so that we can actually see a site plan as it would be developed, to provide proper public notice, and if not previously provided, that be presented to the public. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lynn Hertak. I am the Land Use Chair for Old Seminole Heights Neighborhood Association. I'm at 5914 North Tampa Street. Old Seminole Heights does oppose this requested land use change for the Hope Street project as it currently stands. There is currently no site plan or funding for the proposed project, which leaves the property's future in question. This is the problem for our neighborhood. We have no problem with what they actually want to do. We would like a reassurance that that's actually what's going to occur. There's no visual plan or funding per their presentation at the association's membership meeting last week for this plan. We cannot be assured that an entity will make good on its promise without any concrete plans or funding behind it. Although we don't generally prefer the use of planned developments within our boundaries, this is an example of when it would be appropriate. In this instance, a PD would be the only control the city has to limit the uses that may develop on the property. If Hope Street applied for a rezoning of PD, which would require a detailed site plan, Oceana would be more than likely to support the project. I can't imagine if we knew what we were getting. Everything sounds wonderful otherwise. In addition, city planning staff and the planning commission found that the request, or rather the city planning staff found the request to be inconsistent with the comprehensive plan, not only because it goes against the plan requirement to preserve the historical industrial land uses, but also because it is inconsistent with the form of development planned for the area and introduces intense commercial uses into a predominantly residential area to the south. We respectfully request that you deny the use. Thank you.
All right, anyone else wish to speak?
Hello, City Council. My name is Avi God. I am a resident of 2511 West Norwood Court and a citizen of Tampa, Florida. As someone who has grown up within this city and someone who is a member of the organization who has spoken, I thoroughly believe that the effort at hand needs to be taken into serious consideration by this council, simply because the land that we are speaking about has been underdeveloped and is, as stated previous to, in a severe area of poverty. This community needs the reassurance of this council that we will present the best opportunities available to move forward and present those things that are necessary for the financial growth, the community growth, and the stability of our city overall. I believe that if we take into consideration the things that this organization has presented, whether it be a continuance so that there can be more discussion and or an approval so that we can move forward with the things that have been requested, I believe that at least there will be some sort of progression made within this community as a whole. Given that we do serve the communities that surround this area and that it is the responsibility of this council to represent the welfare of our community as a whole, I think that we need to take a step back and just realize that at times we may see as profit being a factor. However, the profitability of our people will ultimately move us forward as a whole. And that is the thing that I think that is most important here. Thank you. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, petitioner, rebuttal time. So we're gonna round it off and give you 3 minutes.
Mr. Chairman and board members, we appreciate your consideration tonight. But this request is no different than many zonings that come across your desk, whether it's a standard or a PD. There's no guarantee with either one. Sure, with a PD you have a higher standard, but many PDs come back to you and they're changed and they're modified. What you have here is better. You have the test of time. You have over a century of an organization stating what their mission is and doing it, just like the site that you approved 4 years ago. They told you what they were going to do, and they did it. I think that's better. But the root of the issue before you is not zoning. It's not about a PD plan. It's about a land use amendment. It's not about putting attachments onto a future land use amendment. You've heard from the Planning Commission that the policies are supported. You've heard from us the policies we believe support it. You've heard from the community that it's supported. You've heard from my friend Mr. Michelini, and quite frankly, he tells you He's concerned about residential being there or more residential, but the fact is there's an entire residential community to the west. Tampa Sports Authority runs a golf club with membership and restaurants immediately to the north. So it's already there. We've told you and shown you under land use categories, there is plenty of CC 35 in the area. And most importantly, this council voted for a very similar category for a future land use amendment, by my memory, unanimously a number of years ago. So the precedent is there. The state said it was good. The Planning Commission said it was good. This land use amendment is well supported, and we ask for your support. Thank you.
Before you go.
Yes, sir.
Would you address the question that Mr. Vieira raised about the 589 residential?
Yes.
You want to raise that question? I was getting ready to do it for you. About the 589?
I was eating a Hawaiian bread roll. Excuse me. I was starving. Yes, on the 589 residential units that were referenced by Mr. or by somebody there, what are the potential buffer zones, and that's probably a improper term that you're looking at for those with some of these businesses?
Well, if I may, which I just reminded with great respect to the council, you have a future land use amendment in front of you. There's a zoning issue at 6 o'clock. So in terms of buffer issues, with great respect, I would say that those don't really apply at this vote. I'm happy to respond to anything you like.
Sure.
But the Planning Commission does something very interesting, which, and they do great work, and this is not a criticism of them, but what they choose to do is to come before you and say, here is the absolute maximum that can happen. They don't count retention areas. They don't count parking. They don't count what your footprint's going to be. They give you the nightmare scenario of what can occur there. So myself, only being a zoning guy, I'm not a site plan guy, there's no way 589 units are going to go here. But as I expressed to the council, and I'll put this in short, what you have many zonings come before you. You have standards, you have PDs. There are different levels of trust. But what you have here is better. You have an organization that for over a century has said what they're going to do and they do it.
Mm-hmm.
Proof is in the pudding.
Sure, and I agree with you in the sense that the petitioners and the associated different groups are certainly, I don't want to use the word trustworthy, that sounds almost naive, but you know, obviously Idlewild Baptist, Pastor Witten, et cetera, their reputation to community is second to none on matters of compassion and character, et cetera.
That's what you can rely on, sir.
However, we always have to look at the worst case scenario and even that 1 or 2% just to address it in the unlikely event because of the, you know, you never know.
Yes, sir.
All right. Any other questions? Mr. Suarez.
Chair, if I could ask a question of Planning Commission staff. Ms. Malone, I want to ask you, the staff had found this inconsistent, is that correct? And
yes, that is correct, Mr. Suarez.
Okay, I was trying to read through it. I did see that the staff recommendation was inconsistent. Why was it considered inconsistent before it went to the Planning Commission for a vote?
Right. So we have those policies in the comprehensive plan, the encouraged intensification of our industrial lands. We did have some background analysis in that report that we are losing industrial lands in the city. So staff did feel based on the policies and based on the inventory of industrial lands that it would be consistent with the policy direction to preserve those industrial lands within the city. So we did find it inconsistent. I also pulled, as I showed earlier, the preliminary subsector plan from the 1970 something, and that was a historical pattern that it has been industrial for many, many years in this, and as well as the surrounding area. That kind of played into the analysis as well.
And the other question I have is that, and I asked you about this earlier, which is that the request of future land use previously had been CMU 35 because we knew that we were going to have, I think there was container apartments or something like that, if I recall correctly.
Yes.
I don't remember how many units it was, but it was significantly less than what the intensification could be under that particular land use category, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, the density would be the same for the both. So that number, that 589 worst case scenario would have been the same under the community mixed use 35 and the community commercial 35.
So I guess my question is that the difference between the two land use categories, the CC 35 versus the CMU 35, is only because of the other use that's there, which is the warehouse use. It's been said that warehouse use is already allowed under this particular land use category. Is that correct?
Under light industrial, that is correct.
It is.
Yes.
It is already designated that way. It would not have to be changed for any reason.
That is correct, sir. But light industrial allows for no dwelling units.
Right.
No
That's it.
density.
That's the only
Yes.
differential there. Okay. And the reason I was asking you that is because a member of the bar, someone who is a land use attorney, came up during public comment and made the question, asked a question as to why would they not split up, you know, part of the land in order to zone one versus the other. Now, this is not a zoning case at this time, but there is some thought behind it. So, I mean, to me, that gives me a little bit of a pause, because I'm not really sure why that would not have been done, because it would have made more sense and probably would be a lot easier for everyone involved. But that's just my thoughts based on everything I've seen. So.
It's always an option to not change the entire site, but just to change a portion. That's always an option available to the applicant.
Right. Okay. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Any more
I
questions?
agree with that comment and question. That's all I want to say.
All right.
I wish you'd do that more often.
Because we called staff up and because we had a further discussion, Mr. Pressman, do you want to respond to any of it?
I think we presented everything to you. I think you've spent a lot of time on this. I'd just like to place emphasis again that the Planning Commission did find very strongly in their vote in support. Staff both times were against it, and that again has been approved by you, or have been approved. So you're the precedent for pretty much the same thing. You have the good word of these folks, and you have outstanding community support. Thank you.
Again, along the same statements that Mr. Suarez brought up, it would have seemed to me, and I'm trustworthy of all of you on both sides. However, there's some reservation in my mind. The work that you've done is fantastic for young people and for people in need. There's no doubt about that. But the question here is land, not anything else. And when I look at this and what was brought up earlier about why not say that of the 16 acres, there was going to be 13 acres or 14 acres regarding the warehousing of food and the distribution of food, and then you have 2.5 acres, whatever it was, to divide it and say this is what exactly we're going to do. It reminds me of one that we had about a month ago. Beautiful buildings. And I'm not going to elaborate too much in case there's a lawsuit there, but the buildings were great. However, the property owner didn't own the other building. It was somewhere in the vicinity close by, and it was a beautiful building. And it would have been a great asset to the city. How fortunate to us that we just said, you know what, if you brought this building combined with one, we would have taken it. But when you divide it, it creates another problem. And I'm not going to mention the building because I'm afraid what's going to happen, and we're all going to pay for it.
Let me just say that we would work with the city and city council, whatever direction you would want us to go. I'm hearing certain things.
In other words, I've heard no one that's really against it. I've heard people that have concerns as to why the system was used in this system and the way it was brought to our attention, other than brought it in separate, but with one unit, one whole piece of land, that's for this and this is for this, and I think you wouldn't have no objections at all.
Before you respond, Mr. President, let me, because this was mentioned more than one time. Some people suggested that you continue this so you can have more dialogue. Are you inclined to support that request? It's not our decision.
I would say that it's becoming apparent that I think we need to perhaps look at moving in a different direction. I just want to say that, if I may, that as these things evolve, they just don't always come forward with a ribbon and tie it all up in that regard. So we would be happy to work with City Council, whatever direction you are comfortable that we can move forward.
Chairman, I believe that he's got to make the recommendation, not us.
Right.
You can count to 4, you can count to 6, you can count to 7, but and I haven't heard no one on that side or even this side say they're against it. They just want some verification of the facts.
So, yes, our direction would be to come back with a plan that gives surety, whether that is a combination of land use amendments or in some manner. And I'm not sure, I think it's going to take some time.
I
So
understand.
I'm a little, I don't know if we can just put it in abeyance and bring it back for a date.
If we do anything, we'd put it first on the agenda sometime in the future. I don't want anybody to have to go and wait 9 hours before we get to them again.
Mr. Corn.
And wouldn't it be helpful if we heard the amendment and the zoning together?
It would be.
Because wouldn't that make it easier for us to have the assurances?
In theory, yes, except for the fact that there are two different sets of criteria. One is legislative, one is quasi-judicial.
But we've done that before and differentiated between the two.
Yes, you'd have. But normally, the code also requires that there between the adoption of the land use amendment and the rezoning, that the rezoning is, I believe, 30 days subsequent. Ms. Kurt, is that correct, for the second reading and adoption?
Rebecca Kurt, Legal Department. Yes, when you do them together, then you do have to continue the second reading out. I would say on this one, it is somewhat unique in that I am told by your staff that the zoning that is on your agenda tonight can go forward without the comprehensive plan amendment. So they're not tied like they typically are, like you can't hear the zoning until you hear the comp plan. You could deny the comp plan and they can still go forward with the zoning if they'd like.
But if the comp plan were to go through, wouldn't they come back then for another zoning?
They don't, that's not what they're asking. They're asking for a CI zoning that could be allowed tonight under their current comprehensive plan, I am told. And I'm being told I'm correct.
But what what I'm saying is that if the amendment ultimately we work it out and it passes, wouldn't they then come back again?
They would not have to. They could.
But I
but
think
don't
they
have to.
would for the plan that's being proposed.
No, not necessarily. There are certain allowances for residential NCI under special use permits, which is getting into the zoning aspect, and I don't want to bog it down, but I just wanted to make it clear that it's not your typical one where the zoning is contingent on the comp plan. It's not.
Okay.
And if I can, Mr. Chairman, just to add it for the record and also for some people in the audience who made reference to site plans, item number 9 tonight, the rezoning that's associated with this is a Euclidean rezoning, and it is not site plan controlled. It is not necessary under our code for them to have to provide a site plan in order to go forward.
All right, Mr. President, so what is your decision?
I'd like to continue it, or I'd like to put it in abeyance, which we will re-notice on, because we're going to need to figure out which direction we're going to go, and if we go PD, it's going to take time to do the plan.
How much time are you looking at?
I'm sorry, if I can, Ms. Kurt, I believe if the notice train goes off rails, then it might need to be refiled, rather than having a date and time certain and then having it continued again if it needs to be.
Rebecca Kurt, Legal Department. I did tell Mr. Pressman that if you put it in abeyance, then they would have to do a full renotice. The cleanest way is to continue this out a few months and at least do a status, and then you can see where they are, and if they need additional time, they can do it for there. If not, it's very hard to track.
All right, so you're looking at March?
I would say 3 months.
April?
Yeah, I would say April, because we need to.
According to the
All right.
people earlier
Do we have
today.
a calendar here that we can see April, that we can schedule? April 11th?
April 11th.
All right, Mr. Pressman.
And we'll put you first, if I may.
Yeah, yes, that's what we're gonna.
It's
Can you, 1 second.
5:30?
No. We're going with April 11th.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, we'll do 2 months with a status, and.
Now you're backing up.
Yes, I am.
All right, now.
So I'd say 2 months with a status, and if you want to open and close the zoning, I won't say a word.
All right, so
March
that's
14th.
March 14 at 6:30?
6 p.m.
6 p.m. It'd be the number one item on the
It
agenda.
has to be 5. Does it have to be 5? Excuse me, I'm sorry. I'm just checking with the Planning Commission as to the time. It has to be for a comp plan amendment. Could be 5:30?
I'm sorry, 5 o'clock.
No, we can make it 5:30.
5:30?
All right. Okay, so March the
14th at 5:30.
5:30, and this will be the number one item on the agenda at 5:30.
We don't know yet.
Do you agree to that?
Mr.
Mr. President, we don't have all night now.
March 14th, correct?
March what?
March 14th.
Okay, all right.
March 14th at 5:30.
5:30.
And
And
Mr. Chairman?
it will be the first item on the agenda. Yes, sir.
And if I could just inform the public that the date that you've heard tonight is the only notice you will get. You will not be able to get any other, you will not be getting any notices in the mail or any postings of the like. So please do make note of that date if you're interested in following that, at that continuance.
All right, can we get a motion to that?
Second.
All right, got a motion from Mr. Corn, seconded by Mr. Miranda. Any discussion on that motion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, so it'll be March 14 at 5:30, and you'll be the
Do
first
you want
item
to,
on the
do you want,
agenda.
Mr. Chairman, do you want to do the same with the zoning on the agenda tonight?
Well, we'll have to open up the hearings, and if I could, Chair, I'd like to open up hearings 5 through 9.
Before we go there, yes, sir. Okay. Before we go there, we have some truths in here tonight that need to be recognized. The young folks, I don't want them sitting here for the next hour or two.
Oh.
All right. Tonight we have with us the Boy Scout Troop number 56. They're from MacDill Air Force Base, and they're here observing this meeting tonight.
Can we ask them to come up?
Yeah, I'm trying to get their attention. Scott Master Harris, can you bring your troops up?
Wait,
Where are they
we
going?
don't want you to leave.
Wait. Come back.
Come back. You can't leave yet. You guys stay right there.
Just go up.
Go up.
Say your name.
Say your name.
And where you
Yeah.
I am Christian Sanuti, and is that it?
What else you want to say?
I'm not.
Say
really-
hi, Mom, and hi, Dad.
Well, my father is somewhere in the audience. I'm not sure where he is.
All right, but we appreciate you being here.
I do too. Thank you.
Say your name.
Yeah.
I'm Aiden, and I live on MacDill Air Force Base. My dad's in the military.
Thank you.
All right, appreciate it. Next one.
I am Braden Harris, and I'm the SPL of Troop 56, and we are glad to be here, and we thank you for letting us be on stage.
Okay, good. Thank you for coming.
Before you go, I think there is a merit badge for land use designation, so I think you guys have gotten it.
And if I may, I just wanted to tell you young men that now y'all are Boy Scouts or Cub Scouts? Boy Scouts. And what pack are y'all?
Troop 56.
56. What, 56? Okay, just wanted to thank you guys for all that you're doing in the community. My son was Cub Scouts, Pack 180, and you know, scouting's all about values, and y'all, by coming here tonight, you're seeing local government at work, and I would just encourage y'all to keep on doing what Scouts do, which is to do the right thing and put your community first and have good values, and keep on being involved in civic affairs, things like this tonight. So thank you guys for all your work, and just go on and do good things. Thank you.
All right,
Chair, I'd like to entertain a motion to open up items 5 through 9 so we can clear that other part of that agenda.
I got a motion from Mr. Suarez, second by Mr. Miranda. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Anyone going to speak on item 5 through 9? Please stand to be sworn in. If you're going to speak or thinking about speaking on item 5 through 9, please stand up to be sworn in.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
The Planning Commission staff has reminded me, just so the council's aware, there is one more item, item number 4, that needs to be taken care of by staff before they move on. But if you wish to, do the housekeeping now. I was just advised that to ensure the council.
That's all right. I need to hear. Yeah. All right. In the housekeeping, we need to do. I wasn't saying all right. We got in housekeeping from 5
I have to say, I never got my badge for land use that the Boy Scouts got.
We're going to give you one.
So my request.
Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
How can we help you again?
Well, Mr. Chairman, let's continue the zoning till March 14th, the companion case, please.
Mr. Chairman, of the request of the petition, I move that the zoning number, file number REZ 18-113 be continued to March 14th at the zoning hearing at 6.
Second. All right.
Which will also be first on the agenda on the zoning hearing.
Okay, got a motion from Mr. Miranda, seconded by Mr. Maniscalco. Yeah. They getting it done.
Pastor Whitney.
Forget it.
They're in the middle of a motion to continue.
Wait. The crowd is.
Sit down? I don't know what.
These people ain't gonna hear this.
So,
5 minutes.
Okay. Did they vote on the
Yeah, I don't have the vote. It's not the vote, you have the motion.
I got
Suarez. Cohen. Maniscalco. Capeen.
Present.
Miranda. Viera. And Reddick. Dwayne Estolette, City Clerk's Office. I'm rereading the motion for the transmittal continuance for item number 3. Motion was presented by Councilman Cohen, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. The motion is that file number PA 18-11 be continued to March 14th, 2019 at 5:30 p.m. Further, that said item be placed first on the agenda. Motion carried unanimously.
He said the motion was carried unanimously.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine then, if that's acceptable.
Who said we didn't vote? No, I said we did vote. Oh, we did vote.
Yeah.
We did vote.
All right, we need to take up item number 4.
Mr. Chairman, before you do that, could we just, before the break, item number 9? Did you have to take care of item number 9 as well?
It was never acted so.
Okay,
Right, we didn't.
I thought there might have been a motion, but
No.
Why don't we go, I'll go ahead and make a
Okay.
motion to continue item number 9 to run concurrently.
I did that. Excuse me.
Oh, you did?
I did that. I even called the REZ 18
Okay.
at 113. I even went the whole thing.
and I recall Councilman Miranda did do that. I don't recall who the second was, but I've been informed that there was no vote on that motion.
All right, with a motion by Ms. Miranda, seconded by Mr. Maniscalco.
There was a vote. But maybe they didn't hear it. That's fine. We'll do it.
Let's just do it and get it over with.
Yeah, yeah.
A motion by Mr.
Chairman,
Miranda.
I move item number 9 for continuance to March 14th at 6 o'clock. Item number 1, file number REZ 18-113.
Second.
I
All right,
didn't
got a motion by
memorize
Mr.
it.
Miranda, seconded by Mr. Maniscalco. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right. Now, number 4.
Motion carried unanimously.
Thank you, sir.
Jennifer Malone with your planning commission staff. I have a comprehensive plan map amendment here, 1814. This is also a transmittal public hearing. It's in the Central Tampa Planning District, more specifically within the East Tampa Urban Village. It is the Middleton High School. We have East Osborne Avenue, 41 up here. There's a Walmart Supercenter to the north. This is a publicly initiated small-scale amendment. It's just under 50 acres. There are several future land use designations on the property: community commercial 35, community mixed use 35, residential 10, residential 35, residential 50. There's some right-of-way, and then there's transitional use 24. This is all part of the school, so we are just requesting to change it to that public, semi-public future land use category to represent what it is today and in the future. This is looking at the site from 22nd Street and Osborne. This is looking south from Osborne down 22nd Street. So the railroad tracks looking south from Osborne. This is the future land use map. As I said, it's in the black hashes, and there's a variety of land uses. This is the transitional use 24, which is that salmon color, the residential 10, which is the orange. I have residential 20 and residential 35. And to the north is community commercial 35, that's that red color, and we see it's kind of surrounded by some single family homes in that residential 10. This is the proposed future land use map. Since it's all that school, it's all owned by the school board, proposing to change that to the public. Currently, there's about potential for about 1,144 dwelling units and over 1 million square feet. However, when it goes to the public, it's not applicable because it's going to be operated under the school board. It is consistent with our school siting and availability policies as well as with our compatible development policy. And the Planning Commission did find this consistent at their November 19th Planning Commission hearing. And I'm available for any questions. And again, this is a transmittal hearing. It will go to the state after it's heard tonight.
Ms. Malone, why did they ever do this before? It seems kind of backwards since there's already a school there.
So the Planning Commission, it was undertaking a study to find where we needed to do a little bit of this cleanup because it has been a school for quite some time, and it's just something that came up that we needed to address.
Okay, all right. And just weird that they didn't have it before.
land use.
Additional questions? All right. Next. You do, right?
Yes, thank you.
Anyone else going to speak? All right, anyone in the public going to speak on item number 4? All right. Can we get a motion to close?
Move to close. Second.
All right, got a motion from Mr. Maniscalco, second by Mr. Miranda. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, can we get a motion to move?
Move to transmit.
Second. All right, got a motion from Mr. Maniscalco, second by Mr. Miranda. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Motion carried unanimously.
All right, we go to 6 o'clock meetings and hearings that we have, and Ms. Anna, you want to clean them up? We see but one left.
Good evening, Council. Ryan Manassi, City of Tampa Land Development. Item number 5 cannot be heard. There is no affidavit filed.
Okay.
So if they'd be removed from the agenda.
So moved. Second.
All right, got a motion from Mr. Clark, second by Mr. Suarez. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Item number 6 and item number 8 are requested to be continued to February 28th, 2019 at 6 p.m.
So moved. Second.
All right.
Mr. Chair, I don't know whether you want to hear from the petitioner, but also if you could just announce as well for the public, if anybody wishes to speak. As to the
Steve Michelini, I'm the petitioner, and yes, we respectfully request that items 6 and 8 be moved to the 28th of February at 6 p.m.
All right, anyone else wish to speak on the continuance for item number 6 and 8 from the public? All right, so the motion made by
Councilman Suarez.
Mr. Suarez, seconded by Mr. Maniscalco. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Motion carried. Items has been rescheduled to February 28th, 2019 at 6 p.m.
All right, and yes, sir.
Item number 3.
Number 3.
Seven.
Seven.
That's the only thing we have.
Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies. 7. Ryan Manassi, City of Tampa Land Development. Item number 7 is AB 2193. It's located at 500 South Howard Avenue, Suite A. The current zoning on the property is commercial general. The future land use is community mixed use 35. Development review and compliance staff has reviewed the application and finds it inconsistent with the applicable City of Tampa land development regulations. If approved tonight, between first and second reading, there are minor corrections that would have to be made. The petition before you is requesting a special use approval to allow the sale of alcohol beverages as a restaurant, beer and wine consumption on premises only. City historical records show the current use on the property as retail sales. The total AB sales area is 2,066 square feet, which is all indoor and on the first level. The required parking for the entire site is 31 spaces, and the site proposes 16 spaces. That's a 48% reduction required parking. Parking was calculated using the Building Life Safety Code for restaurant, which is 0.25 times the occupancy, would give you the required spaces for suites A and suite C. And the remaining suites in the development would, D and E and F were calculated using the retail sales, which is 4 per 1,000 square feet. The distance separation requirement for this property is 250 feet from other AB sales establishments and 250 feet from residential uses. The proposed hours of operation are consistent with Chapter 14. The site plan states that sales area shall not be located within a parking or loading area or space, and outdoor amplified sound is permitted until 11 p.m. All permits issued after April 1st, 2011 shall be kept on site. A copy of the adopted ordinance and associated site plan for the alcoholic beverage sales permit. The waivers before you that the applicant is requesting come from Section 27-132 for the distance separations from AB sales establishments from 250 feet to 60 feet, and then the 250 feet from residential uses from 250 feet to 24 feet. Also, Section 27-283.7, and that's to reduce the required number of parking spaces from 31 to 16. Again, that's a 48% reduction. Section 27-283.12, to allow maneuvering in the right-of-way for the parking spaces. And Section 27-283.12J, to allow commercial traffic access to a local street. And the local street is West Horatio Street. Along mixed-use corridors, the residential uses that were in, or the closest residential use within the 250 feet was 2208 West Horatio Street. It's zoned PD, and again, that's 24 feet away, and that's multifamily development. And then the closest AB sales establishment is 60 feet away, and that's at just north of the property at 410 South Howard Avenue, It's Zone CG, and they do have an alcohol beverage sales permit for a small venue, beer, wine, liquor. General planning and transit findings found that Hart Route typically runs weekdays from 5 a.m. to 11:13 p.m. and weekends from 6 a.m. to 11:16 p.m. The property is located in the South Howard Commercial Overlay District and is subject to 27-236, and it's on a transit emphasis corridor. Again, land development did find it inconsistent due to the reduction in the required distance separations for alcohol beverage distance requirements and residential uses, as well as the parking reduction. Transportation planning did find it inconsistent for the remaining three waivers, 27-283-7 for the required number of parking spaces, 27-283-12 for maneuvering in the right-of-way, and 27-283.12J for the commercial traffic access to the local street. Again, it is before you as a restaurant, so they will have to serve food continuously while alcohol sales are being conducted. I'd like to show you, this is the site plan that would require the corrections between first and second reading. As you can see, minor adjustments to the suite labeling as well as the folio. That's page 1. Page 2, it reflects the suite labeling correctly, the way we'd like to have it. That way addressing matches up. And just to give you an idea of the vicinity of the area, as you can see to the west, the north, and the south, it's all zone CG. The PD, the closest residential, is right here, and that's and then there's RM16 residential uses behind here. Top picture is of the subject property, 500 South Howard. Below is for 533 South Howard Avenue, that's directly west. Top picture is 410 South Howard, that's the neighbor to the north. And then the neighbor to the east is the closest residential, is 2208 West Horatio. Top picture is the neighbor to the south, 504 South Howard, it's commercial. And then this is a picture of the alley between, this would be the subject property in question, and this is the closest residential. I just wanted to give you an idea of the distance for that. And the last two photos are from the southwest corner and the northwest corner of the rear of the property. Also, I'd like to point out TPD did do their report, and they did have no objections to this petition. And staff is available for any questions you may have.
Any questions for staff? Petitioner?
Good evening. My name is Z, aka Žydrūnas Rečkauskas. Thanks for having us here tonight. I would like to introduce my team before we start. We have Ed Sandoval. He's the Director of Operations for Shula Restaurants Group. We have Charles, who is an architect who assisted us in the application process and the surveying. Also have an attorney, Norman Harris, who's representing us. And last but definitely not the least, my boss, my supervisor, my wife, Erin. She's also an attorney with the Bay Area Legal Services. Approximately 1 year ago, me and Erin and our 4-year-old daughter Gianna invested in all of our life savings and purchased a Shula Burger franchise from a Shula Burger restaurant group, which is currently located on the 500 South Howard Avenue. Today we are here asking you to consider and approve beer and wine license for our business. We'd like to point out a few highlights from our first year in business. As for most of the startups, first year was tough. Grand opening was on March 7th. Coach Shula himself came in and represented. So we're approaching a 1 year anniversary, but in the first year of business, we participated in the competition and were recognized for having the best burger in the Bay. That was held in Curzixon Park, end of June of last year. 6 or 7 other burger places were competing, and one of our burgers were recognized as the best burger in the Bay. We also participated and won the Sandwich Hunt competition, which was organized by Tampa Magazine. In 2018 calendar year, our restaurant led Shula's brand, not just the Shula Burger concept, but the whole brand in 3 different categories. One of them would be mystery shop results. Second would be online customer reviews. And third, there was a brand audit score, which we managed to get the highest brand audit score the Shula Burger concept had in the 7 years of existence. We also partnered with many different community organizations in South Tampa. To name a few would be South Tampa Chamber of Commerce, which we are a member of. The Florida Aquarium, we held a fundraising with them, supported that cause that they wanted to promote. We also partnered with Bay Area Legal Services and did a fundraising with them, and we partnered with a couple of the middle schools and elementary schools in the area to do fundraising for them as well. Beer and wine license is imperative for our business for multiple reasons. One of them is that we would like to even the competition, even the playing field with all of the competitors in the area. And I'm talking about the fast casual restaurants and other gourmet burger concepts in the area. BurgerFi, Burger 21, Burger Monger, Force Garage, and a couple others serve their burgers in addition to, they serve beer and wine in addition to their burgers. So that would be reason one, and probably the most important reason why is that we want to be in compliance with the Shula standards. Shula Burger concept was created with burgers, beer, and wine in mind. All of our burgers are chef-inspired burgers. The menu was created that combines the burgers, the beer, and the wine to make sure that we satisfy all of our guests. And again, to date, which is almost 1 year in existence, we have been out of compliance with the brand standards. So we're here today asking for your approval on a beer and wine license. And thank you. Thanks for your time.
I noticed that you didn't bring any samples. You talk about all
welcome you to the restaurant.
Yeah, all these awards that you won for burgers, but you didn't bring us a sample, and it's a night meeting.
Dinner for everyone at the restaurant today after this.
All right. Any questions for the applicant?
No.
Anyone in the public wish to speak on item number 7?
Move to close.
All right, got a motion from Mr. Maniscalco, second by Mr. Miranda. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Mr. Maniscalco.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I have an ordinance being presented for first reading consideration. An ordinance approving a special use permit S2 for alcoholic beverage sales, restaurant consumption on premises only, and making lawful the sale of beer and wine at or from that certain lot, plot, or tract of land located at 500 South Howard Avenue, Suite A, Tampa, Florida, as more particularly described in Section 2, providing that all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict are repealed, providing for an effective date.
I got a motion from Mr. Maniscalco, second by Mr. Vieira. Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion carried unanimously. Second reading and adoption will be on February 21st, 2019 at 9:30 a.m.
All right, thank you, sir. We go to the information report. Mr. Vieira.
Nothing, sir.
Mr. Miranda.
Nothing, sir.
Ms. Capine.
Yes, I have one. I'd like to make a motion to please,
Y'all through. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You can stay.
Yeah.
Go get the burgers.
They were staring at us like they had something else to say. Y'all through. Okay.
Good night. Motion to present a commendation to the City of Tampa Women's History Month Committee at the March 7th meeting, 9 a.m.
All right, got a motion from Ms. Capine, second by Mr. Maniscalco. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, anything else?
No, sir, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Maniscalco.
Nope.
Mr. Cohen.
No, thank you.
Mr. Suarez.
No, sir.
Move to receive and file.
Second.
All right, got a motion from Mr. Miranda, second by Mr. Maniscalco. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we stand adjourned.
All right, see you next time.
But we did get everything done, so that's good. That is good.